Hi, in this next video I'm going to show you how to create a sample of inverted pleats with top stitching. For this sample you'll need your pattern piece that you've used for box pleats and your other inverted pleats, and you'll also need a piece of fabric that's the same size as the piece of paper. And what I'm going to do is to take my pattern piece and to lay it on top of the piece of fabric, making sure that that's centered, and then I'm going to pin this in place and mark where the pleats are, as I did before, just by using a small snip about ½ centimetre in to the top edge. So I'm going to mark where the solid lines and where the broken lines are to help me with the folding. So I'm going to do that all the way along. Okay, because I'm going to top stitch the pleats, I need to also mark the bottom of these lines so I can make sure that they're folded all evenly, and also I can make sure I stitch to the same point on each of the pleats. So to do that I'm going to use this pen which disappears in air, and I'm going to use a pin. So what I've already done is I've put a hole, well I've just put a small pinhole at the bottom of each of the lines, so that I can then just take my pen and I can just mark over the top. The ink will go through those tiny pinholes and I'll have a small mark underneath. So if I peel that back, still holding it in place just in case it hasn't worked, peel that back and you'll see that I've got some marks there. And just to make them a little bit darker for the ones which seem to be disappearing, I can just go over them again with the pen. So you could transfer these markings with tailor tacks if you were if you find that this didn't mark, or you're using, say you're using a purple fabric where you're not going to see this, or you could use a chalk or something. But this is quite quick and easy because it disappears in air, or you can just wash it off. So once I've done that, I'm now going to form the pleats, and to do that I'm going to fold from where this snip is here to the dot and make a crease along that fold, and then bring that over to the second dot and to the second snip. So if I was looking at the pattern, I'd be folding from the solid line to the broken line, and I'm folding on the right side of the fabric to make my inverted pleats. And I'm going to pin that in place, making sure that I'm being really accurate and that the raw edges stay aligned. And then I fold the second one, so this is the second bold line, folding from the mark, the dot, to the snip, and then bringing that over to the broken line and making sure that those folds meet in the centre, and that the raw edges line up along here as we go along. So I'm going to make those pleats all the way along the fabric in the same way, so folding again from the snip to the dot, creasing it gently, bringing that over, matching the dot, matching the snip, pinning in place. And to be careful with your pins and the fabric that you're using, because sometimes you might be left with pinholes depending on the type of fabric and how big your pins are. Okay, so that's all of the pleats marked, and what I'm going to do next is to do my top stitching, and I'm going to form a kind of open rectangle. So I'm going to stitch from the top to the dot, come across the fold, and then back up the other side to hold those in place. I'm going to make sure I'm really accurate, stitching the same width from the fold and stitching to the same point where the purple dot is on each of those pleats. So I'm going to try and stitch really accurately and keep an equal distance from that fold all the way along. So I'll do it by eye really. And I'll just take the pins out as I come to them. You could tack it first if you wanted to, but besides I'm just going to go for it. So that's the first one done, and I'm going to do the rest in the same way. Okay, so that's those finished. So I've got top stitching around the pleats, and then the bottom edge of the pleats is just free to hang. So I'm going to just finish this off by pinking around the edges, and then I can put that into my file. So this is my finished sample, pinked around the edges and ready to go into my file.